My wife and I had been married for 9 years, long enough to memorize each other's habits, long enough to know when a smile was fake, when a laugh was forced, and when silence meant something was terribly wrong. For the past 6 months, Emily had become a completely different person. Late meetings, weekend conferences, business dinners that somehow stretched past midnight. Every time I asked if everything was okay, she smiled without looking into my eyes and blamed work pressure. I wanted to believe her, because trusting your spouse feels easier than admitting your marriage might already be collapsing. But deep inside, an uncomfortable voice kept whispering that the woman I loved was slowly disappearing. That Tuesday night felt strangely ordinary. Emily kissed me on the cheek before leaving around 7, saying her company had an emergency strategy meeting with senior management. She barely touched the dinner I had cooked and rushed toward the door while checking messages on her phone. I noticed she had started locking her screen weeks ago, something she had never done before. As she walked away, she didn't even turn around to wave. I stood at the window watching her car disappear into the rain, trying to convince myself I was simply becoming paranoid. Sometimes the hardest lies to recognize are the ones we desperately want to believe. I couldn't sleep. Around midnight, I sat alone in the living room, pretending to watch television while my phone rested on the coffee table. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the screen lit up. Emily's name appeared. My heart instantly started pounding. The message contained only one sentence. I'm with my boss. Don't wait up. Nothing else. No explanation. No apology. Just those 6 words that somehow carried the weight of an entire collapsing marriage. Most husbands would probably explode with angry phone calls or desperate questions. I did neither. Instead, I stared at the message for almost 2 minutes before quietly opening a folder I had been building for nearly 5 months. People often think betrayal is discovered in one shocking moment. The truth is much uglier. It grows slowly, one suspicious detail at a time. 5 months earlier, I had accidentally seen Emily's boss, Daniel Carter, picking her up 2 streets away instead of outside our house. She claimed they were simply carpooling because of parking issues. A week later, she forgot her smartwatch at home, and it displayed notifications that didn't match the stories she had told me. Then came unexplained hotel receipts charged to the company card, business trips that never appeared on official schedules, and photographs posted by coworkers proving entire meetings had ended hours before Emily claimed they had. I never confronted her. I simply collected every piece of the puzzle. Daniel wasn't just any manager. He was the company's regional director, admired by employees and trusted by investors. Publicly, he presented himself as a devoted family man who regularly spoke about integrity during leadership seminars. Ironically, his speeches about honesty had earned him several corporate awards. While everyone else admired him, I quietly uncovered another version of the man hiding behind expensive suits and polished smiles. Security camera timestamps, deleted calendar invitations recovered through shared cloud backups, restaurant reservations made under fake initials, and even photos from employees who unknowingly captured Emily and Daniel together in the background. Every discovery hurt, but pain slowly transformed into patience. Months before that message arrived, I had hired a private investigator. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed certainty. His reports confirmed everything I feared. Daniel wasn't only involved with Emily. There had been 2 other employees before her, both quietly transferred after their relationships ended badly. The investigator also discovered something even more dangerous. Daniel had been using company money to pay for luxury hotel suites during fake business trips. Those expenses were hidden inside client entertainment budgets. Emily may have believed she was only having an affair, but she had unknowingly become part of financial misconduct that could destroy multiple careers. That realization completely changed my plan. So when Emily texted, "I'm with my boss, don't wait up," I didn't respond with anger. I opened my gallery, selected one carefully prepared screenshot, and pressed send. It wasn't a photo of them together. It wasn't an emotional message or a threat. It was a screenshot showing tomorrow morning's scheduled email at exactly 6 a.m. addressed to Daniel's wife, the company's board of directors, human resources, corporate compliance, and external auditing firm. Attached beneath the email were 37 files containing every document, receipt, photograph, witness statement, and timeline I had collected. My only caption beneath the screenshot read, 3 hours left. Her reply came almost instantly. What is this? Then another. Are you serious? Then another. Please answer me. The phone kept vibrating across the table as message after message appeared. Calls followed. 7 missed calls in less than 4 minutes. Then Daniel himself somehow got my number and called twice before leaving a voicemail begging me not to misunderstand the situation. I laughed for the first time in months. Funny how people who lie for months suddenly demand immediate communication the second they lose control. I muted every notification, placed the phone face down, and calmly poured myself a cup of coffee while the rain continued outside. At 4:45 a.m., headlights suddenly filled my driveway. Emily jumped out of her car before it had completely stopped and ran toward the front door, wearing the same expensive dress she had supposedly worn to a business meeting. Her mascara had smeared from crying, and panic had completely replaced the confidence she'd shown only hours earlier. She pounded on the door so hard the neighbors' lights began turning on. Please, she screamed through the wood, don't send that email. We can fix this. I'll explain everything. I walked toward the door, looked through the peephole, and quietly checked the clock. It read 5:58 a.m. I smiled, stepped away from the entrance, and allowed the automatic schedule to continue. The second hand on the kitchen clock clicked forward with almost unbearable calm. 5:59 a.m. Emily was still pounding on the front door, her voice cracking as she begged me to stop what was coming. Michael, please, just cancel it. I'll tell you everything. I stood silently in the hallway, coffee still warm in my hand, watching the digital clock above the stove. For months she had ignored every opportunity to tell me the truth. She had looked me in the eyes and chosen another lie every single time. Now, 60 seconds felt like an eternity. At exactly 6 a.m., my laptop chimed once. The scheduled email had been sent. There was nothing left to cancel. Emily's phone rang almost immediately. She looked at the screen, and all the color drained from her face. It was Daniel. She answered with trembling hands, but I could hear him shouting even from several feet away. What did your husband send? He yelled. The board just received everything. HR is calling me. My wife saw the email before I did. Emily tried to explain between tears, insisting she hadn't known about the evidence. Daniel didn't care anymore. The confident executive who had controlled everyone around him for years was now panicking like a cornered man. Before she could finish another sentence, he hung up on her. Within minutes, my own phone began buzzing. One notification after another filled the screen. Corporate compliance acknowledged receipt of the evidence. Human Resources confirmed an emergency investigation had been opened. Daniel's wife sent only 4 words. Thank you for telling me. I stared at that message longer than I expected. She wasn't thanking me because her marriage had ended. She was thanking me because someone had finally respected her enough to tell her the truth. It reminded me how betrayal never destroys just one person. It sends cracks through every life connected to it. Emily eventually stopped knocking. When I finally opened the door, she rushed inside and collapsed onto the living room floor, sobbing uncontrollably. I made a mistake, she whispered. It was never supposed to go this far. I looked at her quietly before asking the only question that mattered. Which mistake? She looked confused. Lying to me? Having an affair? Helping cover financial fraud? Or texting your husband at 2 in the morning like he was too pathetic to deserve the truth? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. For the first time since we had met, excuses had abandoned her. She tried another approach. She insisted Daniel had manipulated her. She claimed he promised promotions, raises, and opportunities if she stayed loyal to him. I believed part of her story because predators often exploit ambition. But manipulation didn't explain months of deception. It didn't explain every false business trip, every fake meeting, every anniversary she skipped, or every night she watched me cook dinner while knowing she was about to meet another man. You had hundreds of chances to walk away, I said quietly. Every morning you woke up and chose him again. By mid-morning, the story had exploded inside the company. Employees whispered in hallways. Executives canceled meetings. Daniel was escorted from the building while investigators seized company laptops, expense reports, and financial records. News spread that several executives were also being questioned regarding fraudulent reimbursements connected to luxury trips disguised as client entertainment. My evidence hadn't created the scandal. It had simply exposed one that had already existed. Daniel's career, carefully built over 20 years, collapsed before lunchtime. By sunset, his professional profile had disappeared from the company's website. Emily wasn't spared either. HR suspended her pending investigation. Friends who once admired her suddenly stopped answering messages. Some defended her privately, believing she had been manipulated. Others couldn't ignore the documents showing months of deception. The hardest call she received came from her own mother. I overheard only one sentence before Emily broke down again. "Your father will be ashamed of the choices you've made." Sometimes disappointment hurts far more than anger. 3 days later, Emily asked if we could meet one last time before I finalized the divorce papers. We sat across from each other at the same small cafe where we had celebrated our first wedding anniversary nearly a decade earlier. Neither of us ordered food. She looked exhausted, as though she hadn't slept since that night. "Do you hate me?" she asked softly. I thought about the question for a long moment before answering honestly. "No," I said. "Hate requires emotional energy. I spent all of mine trying to save a marriage you had already abandoned." Tears rolled down her face, but this time I didn't reach across the table to comfort her. She slid a small envelope toward me. Inside was her wedding ring. "I don't deserve to wear it anymore," she whispered. I nodded, closed the envelope, and placed it in my pocket without opening it again. "I hope someday you forgive me," she said as I stood to leave. I paused beside the table before giving her the only answer I could. Forgiveness isn't something you ask for after getting caught. It's something you earn through honesty before everything falls apart. Then I walked away without looking back. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. There were no dramatic courtroom arguments or revenge speeches, just signatures, quiet acceptance, and a legal and a life we had once promised would last forever. I sold the house because every room carried memories that no longer belonged to me. I moved into a smaller place overlooking a quiet lake where mornings felt peaceful again. For the first time in years, silence no longer felt suspicious. It felt healing. Nearly a year later, I received an unexpected email from Daniel's former wife. She simply wanted me to know that exposing the truth had helped far more people than I realized. The corporate investigation had uncovered years of financial misconduct involving multiple executives. Several employees who had been pressured into silence finally came forward. Policies were changed. New leadership took over. "Painful truth," she wrote. "Save more families than comfortable lies ever could." I closed the email with a quiet smile. People often ask whether revenge brought me satisfaction. The truth is simpler than that. I never wanted revenge. I wanted reality. I wanted the lies to stop controlling my life. That screenshot I sent at 2:17 a.m.